Hello lovely people, my name's Kate Clark and I'm going to be taking you through the colour pencil portrait course. First of all, I want to talk to you about the equipment I'm going to be using during the course. To start with, I want to talk about pencils. My favourite type of pencil are Prismacolor. They're very soft wax-based pencils and I particularly like them because they're very small to hold. I've only got quite small hands and I like the size of them. Another type of wax-based pencils that I like to use are Colour Soft, made by Derwent. They're a bit chunkier and they're not quite as creamy wax in the leads, but they're very interchangeable with these ones. I also do have some oil-based pencils. I won't be using them this time, but sometimes I do portrait commissions in them. They're Polychromos, made by Faber-Castell. They work in a slightly different way, but also get wonderful results. It doesn't really matter what type of pencils you're using. You will be able to get the results that we're getting in this course from even cheap school quality pencil crayons. But if you can afford artist quality ones, I would always recommend it. One of the things you do need to watch with all the pencils, particularly if you're working on commissions for other people, is how light fast the colours are. These two types of pencils, the Prismacolor and the Colour Soft, both have available online light fastness charts that you can download. They just tell you which colours have got rogue pigments in them. When I'm working on commissions, I always use colours that are light fast to number 3 or above. And wherever possible, if you get a new set of pencils, you should really try and make your own light fastness chart. I'll just show you one that I've had for Prismacolor. And what I do is I just make a list of the colours and then cover half of each column with a piece of cardboard taped on, and then put this in a sunny window. So if you check them every, say, 2 to 3 weeks, you'll be able to notice whether any of the colours have changed or faded, or in this case, after about 6 weeks, some of these pinks and reds had such rogue pigments in them they completely disappeared. So you do have to be careful with which colours you're using, because some of them really can fade to that extent. And obviously, if you've done a piece of work that's taken you weeks, you don't want it to be passed on to the recipient and then completely fade within a few months. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the type of paper I use. For this course, I'm going to be working entirely on Bristol board. This is sometimes called Ivorex board. It's basically an acid-free, very smooth face card, quite bright white. Just show you, quite a bright white, smooth surface. It allows me to build up lots of layers very gradually, because it's got no tooth, no texture to the paper, so I can put on lots of lovely smooth layers and blend them as I go. Next, I'd like to talk about the rest of the equipment we're going to be using on the course. First, to tell you about my electronic pencil sharpener. This is my favourite piece of equipment, really. When I'm working on my portraits, I do a lot of very detailed work, and it's essential I have a very fine point on all my pencils at all times. Every 30 seconds, if I'm doing a big commission piece, I'll be sharpening my pencil. And this is absolutely the perfect thing for it. It keeps them really fine point, and it sharpens without damaging the lead. I do have another one, a Derwent one, which is a battery operated one, which is portable. I can take round with me to workshops and things like that if I'm out and about. Otherwise, get the best quality hand pencil sharpener you can, preferably one that twists round the pencil rather than you twisting the pencil in it. Derwent do a very good one. Just anything that's not going to put stress on your lead and mean that you're going to have lots of breakages as you're working. Next, I want to talk to you about erasers. I usually just use one of these school erasers, white soft one. That does for most of the jobs I'm doing, but sometimes I have very precise areas I want to rub out, and for that I use a propelling eraser, just a little tiny one like this. There are also electronic ones available, battery operated ones that sort of rotate as you're using them. I personally don't like those because I think they damage the surface of the paper, and like I said before, it's a very smooth surface I'm working on and I like to keep it pristine when I'm working, so these just are the two that I use. The other thing I use a lot is just a little soft brush. This is just a cheap children's paintbrush, and I use it for taking all the little bits of wax that drop off when I'm working. so that they don't get pushed into the paper further down. And also for rubbings out, little tiny bits of eraser that get stuck on my paper as well, just brushing those off. Another thing I use is an embossing tool. This we'll talk about the techniques this is used for later in the course, but it's for pushing indentation into the paper so that it leaves a white mark when you're colouring over it. This one is a parchment craft one, but you could use an old biro that's got no ink left in it, or anything really that's got a blunt end that's not going to tear at your paper, but that you can impress with. The other two things I need to talk to you about are the two things that I use for gridding up and drawing in my original line drawings when I'm doing a piece. Just a clear plastic ruler and this just simple propelling pencil. This one is got a 2B lead in it, a nice soft lead, so that it's easy for me to erase the grid and erase the lines as I'm going along, so that they don't show up underneath the wax pencil. Obviously you can use whatever you've got to hand, whatever equipment you've got. This is just my personal choice of equipment I like to use when I'm working on portraits.